And the output is first a set of predicted ratings. Okay, so we don't know. You haven't watched this movie. We're predicting you'd rate it as a 4-star or a 3.8 stars or something like that. It doesn't have to be an integer number, even though when you have the input, it's always integers. The output won't always be an integer. The reason it won't always be an integer is because you won't actually see those predicted ratings. As the user, what you see is the recommendation. So this is what's actually transparent to the user. It's the recommendation. We think you should watch movie X, movie Y. You watched Good Will Hunting. We think you should watch A Beautiful Mind, or something along those sorts. So they don't show you the predicted ratings, then they show you the recommendations. So this is not shown to you. This is shown to you. And this is just showing it graphically, though. And we do actually need to deal more so with the predicted ratings here. We can't deal with the recommendations because we have to evaluate the predictor for accuracy. And we'll talk about that in a second. Let's first just look at this table just to get an idea. So on this side, we have the input to the system. It's we give it in a tabular form. So it's just shown as a table. Down the rows are users, and across the columns are movies, right? So this user and this movie, you could see this has a question mark here, something that we don't know. You can just read. Then we'll say maybe this user, and what about this movie, right? So you can come over through and see that he rated this movie a 4-star. So on. It's just a concise way of depicting that input. And the question marks, again, denote the ones that we don't know. So we don't know what this user rated this movie. We don't know what this user rated this movie because it hasn't been inputted yet. It's not that it's there and we just don't know it, but we don't know what this user thinks of this movie because he hasn't watched it yet, for instance. Then and you make a prediction, and the output again is a user movie table. We can look at it as such at least, but it's just the predictions, right? So the predicted ratings. We predict 3.1 for this movie. We predict 3.2 for this one that hasn't been watched. 2.8, 4.5, 3.8, 3.2, and then we can use this data to say then for each user what we think the person should watch. So, well, for this user up here, for instance, we see there's 2 movies. There's 3.2 rating on this one, 3.8 rating. So we would say, okay, well, you should watch this movie, for instance. Okay. Then this user down here, 2.8, 3.2, we'd say, okay, well, you should watch this movie, for instance. Then for the first and the last one, it's trivial because there's no other movies. But in general, there's just a ton of movies and a ton of users. And this, again, is just a really small depiction of the idea. And we don't have to recommend just one movie. We can recommend multiple ones. We could recommend the top 10 movies, say, that the person hasn't watched yet.